Okay, we're just going on to Facebook, and then we shall begin. Okay. Welcome, everybody, as we continue our journey together.
Share screen.
Yes, we're going to do that in a moment. As we journey together in our daily learning of Rambam, we do 3 chapters a day. I forgot to mention, I mentioned that we should learn on Shabbos on our own, the 3 chapters. I will send, God willing, at the end of the week, a PDF that you can print out before Shabbos so you can then learn it on your own, as we will not get that opportunity to learn from Shabbos. Unless you're here at Chabad Zichron, we had 5 people learning yesterday afternoon. It was wonderful. And we did the 3 chapters. That was in person, not on Zoom. But let us now continue with our learning, where we are today. Okay. So we are on chapter 3 of the laws of Kriya Shema, the laws of saying the Shema, which includes also the blessings before the Shema. Yeah, no, it's correct. It's just, it starts over here. It includes the blessings before the Shema and after the Shema. That's what we spoke about previously. Now we're going to learn about when you're praying, what kind of place you're allowed to pray and a place you're not allowed to pray. So these are going to be very specific laws. They're dealing about bathrooms, about urinating and feces and all those things. So please, there's going to be very much nuanced in the learning, and it may seem it's not at all repetitive, as we shall see. Okay, so chapter 3, the first halacha. When you recite the Shema, you should wash your hands before you read. What happens if the time came that it was the time, the hour is coming, and you don't find water in order that you can wash your hands? You should not read the Shema until you search out for water. My apologies. You should not wait until you find water, and therefore maybe not say the Shema in its appointed time. What you should do is, but you should wipe your hands in dirt of the ground or with pebbles, or something similar to that, and then read. If you have a towel, but you don't have water, for example, right? That would be sufficient. Halacha beis. One is not allowed to recite the Shema, not in a wash house, not in a bathhouse, and not in a bathroom. Even if there isn't any feces there, or there isn't anything that excrement there. And not in a cemetery, and not even by a body that is next to you. But if you do separate yourself 4 cubits, which is approximately 6 feet from the grave or from the deceased, you're allowed to read. And if someone did read in a place where they're not allowed to, you have to return, you have to go back and read the Shema again. Halacha 3. If you have a bathroom that was built, but it was not yet used by any individual, so next to it you don't have to distance yourself the 4 cubits, but you cannot be saying it inside the bathroom, even though it was never used. However, a new bathhouse, you are allowed to read inside the bathhouse if it was not yet used, like a mikvah that was, before it was inaugurated. If you had 2 buildings, and one was set aside, was designated for a the bathroom. The Omar al Hasheni vizeh. And on the second one, you said the words and this. You didn't particularly say what this what, but you said this. So the second one becomes a question if you actually have now designated it for this particular for a bathroom or not. Therefore, and you should not initially read the Shema in there. But if you did, you fulfilled the commandment. Again, because you didn't completely verbalize it, even though you somewhat partially did. Amar Gamzeh, but if you said also this, in other words, this other edifice is also, meaning the first one is a bathroom, and this also, but you didn't actually articulate it. Both are designated as a bathroom. They ain't carrying by him, and you're not allowed to read in them. However, the courtyard to a bathhouse, it's a place where people do gather there clothed, right? It's not in the bathhouse itself. You're allowed to read the Shema there. But we're not only talking about the mitzvah of saying the Shema, but anything that pertains to a sanctity that has holiness to it. Also, it is forbidden to say it in a bathhouse or in a bathroom. Even if you said it in another language other than Hebrew, in a not in the holy tongue. But not only are not allowed to verbalize a prayer, but you're not allowed to even think words of Torah in the bathroom or in the bathhouse, in a place that has an unclean place. Also, it is a place where there's feces or urine is found. It is forbidden. Even if it's not found there at the moment, it's still forbidden. Secular matters that we are talking about. You're allowed to say it in the Hebrew language because it is secular matters. It's not holy matters. Even in reference to God, right? You can call him the merciful one. You can call him the compassionate one. You can call him the faithful one. This you can say in a bathroom. But the names that are specific to God, the holy names that are not allowed to be erased, those 7 names. Also, you're not allowed to mention them, not in a bathroom, not in a bathhouse that has been used. So what happens if in a situation that comes up and a person, it's necessary to restrain someone from wrongdoing, right? They're doing something wrong. And if you have to use some words of sanctity in order to refrain somebody, to hold somebody back from doing something that is forbidden, so then you're allowed to use the name of God and so on and so forth in order to keep a person away from sin. Halacha 6. So here we're talking about saying the Shema when there is human feces. There's feces from dogs or from pigs. So back in the day, they used to somehow take the excrement and put it in, soak leather in there for the process of tanning the leather. So in such an instance, the feces that has a bad smell to it, as these instances that we just mentioned, it is forbidden to read the Shema next to it. Likewise, the urine from a human being, so you're not allowed to be next to it. However, animal urine, you're allowed to be next to it. Now, how about a child and their excrement? their feces or urine. So if a child is eating, unable to eat grain the size of an olive in the time period that it would take an adult to eat three egg sizes of grain, that's a time period. There ein marchikim. Then that means the excrement that comes from the child is not an excrement that you need to distance yourself from it. Not from the feces and not from the urine. In other words, the child is still too young, and the excrement that comes is not something that you have to distance yourself from that child. Although more so if all you're doing is nursing the child, that you do not have the feces and the excrement and the urine, you do not have to distance yourself the 4 cubits that we mentioned. Also, the Chris Kenegda. What if you're reciting the Shema next to feces that is dried up as clay? Yeah, that's still forbidden to do it next to it. But if it was even dried up even more than more than clay, that you threw the feces and it would break up. In other words, it's so brittle, it's so old. For this is considered as the earth, and you could be next to it and read the Shema. Excuse me, urine that was swallowed up in the ground. If you would wipe your hand and there's moisture that you would get from the urine, also the kreis kenegdam, you can't be next to that urine and say the Shema. The im lav muta, but if there isn't any moisture, then it would be permissible. Halacha 8. How much of a distance do you need to separate yourself from the feces and from the urine and then be able to read? Arba amos, it has to be 4 cubits. Again, that is 6 feet. When are we talking about? That's when it is behind you, right? Or on your side. But if it's in front of you and you could see it, you have to distance yourself that you don't see the excrement, and then you can read the Shema. When are we talking about? What is the instance over here that this law is applicable? That's when you are on the equal footing as the feces or the urine. You're on the same level. But if there was a separation, an elevation of 10 tvachim, which is, this is a tefach, it's a handbreadth, so approximately 30 inches, or there's a separation and it is lower than, either higher than you or lower than you by these 10 handbreadths. So that is considered a separation, and you could be beside it even because you have the 10 tefachim between you and you could read the Shema. But that's only in the instance that there is no smell. Right? If there's a smell, then you have to distance yourself further. So likewise, if you take a vessel and you cover over on the feces or on the urine, even though you're right next to it, this is considered as it's buried, and therefore you're allowed to say the Shema right next to it. Now you might ask a question like, what's going on over here? Is this like, just do it the right way? Well, first of all, we need to know all the laws and the regulations and the boundaries of all these things. And there's many other ramifications as a result of all this. And the most important thing is this is God's will, and by understanding God's will, we are united with the will of God and His wisdom, of course. Halacha 10. Now, what if you had a separation between you, but it's a glass separation? Right? So there is a separation, but you can see, right? You're not going to smell, but you can see. So even though you could see, nonetheless, since there is a separation, it can be next to you, right? If you put a revius of water, right, to dilute the urine one time. You could be within the 4 cubits and read the Shema because it has been diluted. Number 11. If the feces were found in a hole, you can cover up with your foot, with your shoe rather, of this hole where the feces is, and you could read the Shema. That's only if your shoe is not touching the feces. If there was a very small amount of feces of excrement next to you, just a little drop, you could actually spit on it, and if that spit is sufficient to cover it, then you could read. If there was your on your flesh, there was excrement that was you soiled your flesh, or your hands are soiled from because you were in the bathroom and your hand got dirty, but there was no smell at all. It was just a little, nothing, no real mamashes, nothing really to it. Either because it's so little or because it is dried out. You could read. Right? Well, the reason is because there is nothing really there and there is no smell to it. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean you can't wash your hands. We're talking about the instances here where these are the facts. This is what happened. The question is, did you fulfill the law of saying the Shema or not? Because fulfilling the law of doing something holy has to be done in a holy manner. So, of course, there's the best way to do it, but here are the laws and, again, the parameters in what is considered fulfillment of the mitzvah or not. However, if it was still in its place, and if it's not visible when the person stands, since it was visible when he sits, also so even if it's just a little bit, but if it's still damp somewhat, there's some moisture to it, and there's a smell to it, so then a person needs to completely clean themselves. And many of the Ga'anim of the former sages, they said it's forbidden to recite the Shema if one's hands are soiled, and it's proper to go according to their teachings. So yes, one should make sure they're completely clean. Halacha 12. Reach rash yesh by ikr. When the foul odor has a substance to it, right? You have to distance yourself to 4 cubits, as we've mentioned, right? And then you could read. That's if then the smell actually is no longer. But if the smell is still after the 4 cubits of the 6 feet, you have to remove yourself until no longer there is the smell from the feces. However, when it is only gas that a person has passed, right? So there is no substance there. It's only the odor that is the issue. Then you have to only remove yourself as long as there isn't a smell. So it could be less than 4 cubits, or it could be more than the 4 cubits. The main point is that it needs to be, please admit people when they need to be admitted. So then in such an instance, it could be even less than 4 cubits because there is no substance here. It is only the gas. Garaf shel reiv ovid shel mei reglayim. If the odor is coming from an actual substance, meaning a result of passing. If it's a cesspool or a chamber pot. An example of this today would be a potty for a child that's not in the bathroom, right? The potty for the child. Also, you cannot say the Shema next to it, even though there's nothing in that potty, right? Or here it's speaking about the cesspool and the chamber, but that's a modern day example. And there is no smell over there because the potty wasn't used right now, but it is a potty. So it's like the movable bathroom, so to speak. Because it is similar to the bathroom. Halacha 13. It is so now saying the Shema by a excrement that is passing, a moving excrement. So he gives an example, that it is moving because it's in the water. The excrement is in the water. Also, is connected. You can't be next to it and say the Shema. In other words, you have to distance yourself, and if there's a smell, even more than the 4 cubit. How about the mouth of a pig? It is considered like a moving excrement. The reason is because pigs they frolic themselves in garbage, and therefore they're just full of garbage and feces and all those things, not just in the excrement that comes from them, but they're very kind of being. So also the is connected. Therefore, you cannot say next to a pig the Shema until you remove yourself the 4 cubits. Halacha 14. What happens if you're walking and you're saying the Shema, right? You're walking, as we learned yesterday. You can walk. The first line of the Shema you have to say standing still, but the rest you could be walking. So what happens? In fact, you are walking and you're saying the Shema. But now what happens? It happens upon some excrement, an unclean place, one of the places we mentioned. You shouldn't place your hand over your mouth and then continue to recite as if like you're covering up. But you have to stop until you are distance yourself from that place of that unclean place. Likewise, if you are reading the Shema and you pass gas, so you pass gas, then you have to stop until the odor is removed or subsides, and then you can continue saying the Shema. The same applies also for when one is studying Torah. You also have to wait until the odor has dissipated. That is when you're speaking about you pass yourself gas. What if your friend is passing gas? So even though for Shema you have to wait until the odor has been removed or subsided, but when it comes to learning of Torah, one doesn't need to do that. One can still continue learning Torah. So he mentions over here for several different reasons. Let us continue to halacha 15. If you're reading Shema in your home, and you're not exactly certain, is there in the house any feces or urine, right, that may be smelling up the area or not? You're not certain. Since it's a doubt, you could say the Shema. But if you are reading next to a garbage heap, but the garbage heap doesn't mean that there's feces or there's urine, but you're not certain. Maybe there is. But since there's a possibility there could be, so therefore, because usually in a garbage heap there is such things. So therefore, in that instance, you have to stop until you pass beyond the area. However, the doubt is not about feces, but it's only about urine. So urine, since it can become absorbed, therefore you're not certain, you are able to read. Halacha 16. So we're talking about doing holy things in a holy place. But there's not just holy place, but there's also in a holy environment, in a place that is that doesn't have a human nakedness. So just like as it is forbidden to read the Shema in physical places that are not that are impure. So likewise, when it comes to nakedness of a human being, a person needs to remove their face and turn away to say the Shema if a person is not is naked. Even if it's someone who isn't Jewish or it's a child, right? We also have to remove ourselves, the eyesight from the nakedness. Even if there is a separation, right, where it was good when it came to the feces or urine, but it's not sufficient for a nakedness of an individual that you see, that you still have to remove yourself, you have to move your face away from that nakedness and read the Shema. The whole guf ha'isha erva, so what is considered nakedness? The entire body of a woman is considered nakedness. So therefore, you should not look at a woman and gaze at a woman when you are saying the Shema, even if it's your own wife. If even a handbreadth of her body is uncovered, he should not recite the Shema facing her. 1 second. That's speaking next to his wife. Okay. Halacha 17. So just like a nakedness of another person, you should not read because that's not considered holy. Likewise, the nakedness of your self is also something is forbidden to say the Shema. And you should not read when he is naked until you cover your nakedness. What is the nakedness of the individual? If you cover the nakedness of the individual, the genitals and the loins of yourself, even though the rest of the body is naked, you're allowed to say the Shema even in such a instance. Right. If you were sleeping and you were covered by a sheet, but you were naked sleeping, covered by a sheet. So you should take the sheet and cover from your heart downwards to make a separation. That's the idea also of a gartel, making that separation that we wear. That is a Hasidic custom. But here we're speaking about law, and the law is that you take that sheet and you have to cover from below your heart to the rest of your body. And then you could read the Shema. You might think that you cover yourself from the neck downwards. No, you don't do that. So because the heart will see his nakedness. In other words, you have to separate between the top part of the person, which is the head and the heart, and therefore, because prayer is about making that separation between the lower self and the higher self, the heart and the mind of the individual. So you need to make that separation. But and that's considered, if you do from the neck down and not from the heart down, it is considered as you're reciting without the loins being covered. Halacha 18. Two people that were sleeping under one sheet. Each one cannot read the Shema because they're both naked for themselves and naked for the other. Even if that one person is going to cover himself from below the heart downwards. Because there needs to be now a separation between you and the other individual that are sharing the same bed. That there should be a separation of a sheet between the two individuals, and then you could read the Shema. However, that's speaking about other individuals, right? This might not sound so PC, but that's we're learning the divine wisdom over here. We're not going to get into the details over here now. Maybe at the end we could. However, if a man is sleeping with his wife in the same bed or with his children, and we'll get the definition of young children, what that is in a moment, they are considered like his body, and therefore he's not affected by it. He's not affected by it, and therefore the even though his flesh might be touching theirs, he has to cover from below his heart, right? But the flesh of his wife or young children is not considered something that is a issue, and therefore so he turns his head and separates from below his heart, and he could read, even though there might be flesh touching. The final halacha, 19 in chapter 3, is that what is considered a child? Concerning this matter, that the father could say the Shema. So he explains when the boy is 12 years old and 1 day, till that time is considered. Okay, and a girl, his daughter, in other words, a girl that is 11 and 1 day. Again, this doesn't sound, we're talking about, back in the day when these were not issues, right? Not that this is a suggestion what to do. You have to understand, when people lived in one room and they had 10 kids and they all lived in one room, how did you live that way? Well, here are some of the ways that they lived, and this is therefore why the halacha is in such a manner. So this is, in other words, when she gets physical form, the young girl to become a young lady, breasts and she has pubic hair. So when that starts to develop, even if it's maybe before 11 and 1 day, then it would be forbidden. But if these two things of getting breasts that are being formed and pubic hair, since they're considered as one flesh, and it doesn't bother the father in saying the Shema, he has to separate between himself, his higher and lower self, but the physical separation between the child is not necessary. But for sure, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It was from 11 and 1. If there's going to be any signs of puberty, but for sure from 13 and 1 for a boy and 12 and 1 day for a girl, even if there's signs of puberty, in that instance, it would be forbidden to read the Shema. The end of chapter 3. My dear son, Rabbi Label, fine, will continue for us in chapter 4.
Thank you, Tati. I'm glad you did that chapter, not me.
That was a tough one, yes.
Though we in the Talmud class that we have here in Chabad Adalid, we just finished Gemara Brachas, which most of these halachas are straight from the Gemara, from Gemara Brachas, and we went through it. And the truth is that Judaism has something to say about every part of our life, every aspect of our life, whether it's going to the bathroom or whether it's having a spiritual experience, and everything in between. And that's why it's so detailed. Even though over here we're specifically talking about Shema, when you could say the Shema, when you can't. But in general, Judaism has something to say on how we go to the bathroom and how we do these kinds of things. And so you got a dose of it over here.
A big dose.
Yeah, a big dose. Okay, chapter number 4. Halacha Aleph, number 1. Noshim v'avadim uktanim, women, slaves, and someone who didn't have a bar or bas mitzvah yet, bar mitzvah actually, p'turim mikriya Shema, they are not obligated with this mitzvah of Shema. Something that we missed because yesterday on Shabbos, you have to keep in mind that Shema is a biblical mitzvah. Shema, it says in a pasuk in the Torah that you have to say the Shema in the morning and in the evening. So therefore, there's so much details about the Shema, who should say it, how should say it, etc., because it is a biblical mitzvah. So therefore we have all these details more than let's say a rabbinic mitzvah. But even though young children are not obligated, still we teach them to read the Shema at the right time and to make the blessings before Shema and after the Shema in order to teach them that way they can do the mitzvah when they do the mitzvah properly in the time when they are taka obligated to do the mitzvah. If someone's busy and they're anxious and they're busy with with doing another mitzvah, not Shema mitzvah. So pater mikol mitzvahs. At that point, you're not obligated in other mitzvahs. Ha'oisik b'mitzvah, pater mitzvah. Someone that's busy doing a mitzvah, so he's not obligated in the other mitzvahs that come about. And Krishma is one of them. And therefore, someone that gets married for the first time, a first marriage, he's not obligated with Shema until the first time they are together, because he's anxious about this. And if it was over a weekend, and still still didn't have the first time together, relations, they weren't together for the first time yet. So so at that point, after the weekend, then you are obligated to Shema. Because it's not so anxious anymore, even though they didn't have relations yet. But if someone gets married for a second time, a second marriage, even though it's still a mitzvah, he is obligated with the Shema, because he's not anxious about it. It's not something that will cloud his mind, and anything similar to this. Number 3. If someone has a death close to him, that he's obligated to become an avel, in modern terms, he's obligated to sit shiva for. So pater mikriya Shema, so then you're not obligated with saying Shema ad shikberenu until the burial. Because your mind is not in a proper place to be able to read the Shema. Now, if you're not related, but you were watching over a corpse of someone that passed away, and in Jewish custom, we make sure that there's always a shomer, there's always someone watching from the time of death until the time of burial. There's always someone watching. So even though it's not a relation, even though you're not related, still you're not obligated to Shema because you're being involved in a very important mitzvah. But if there were two people watching, so then one could keep on watching, the other one go away, because as my father mentioned in the previous chapter, that you can't say the Shema right next to a corpse, so therefore go 6 feet away and say the Shema over there, and then he comes back and he becomes the Shomer, he watches over, and the other one could go and say Shema. Another big important mitzvah if someone is digging a grave for someone that passed for a mace. So also pater mikriya Shema is also not obligated with saying Shema. He has to focus on what he's doing. Number 4, so there's a certain time, as these are the chapters that we missed, that we learned yesterday. I shouldn't say we missed. I learned them yesterday. It talks about the time of Shema. So there's a specific time until the end of the 3rd hour. So of the day, and you shouldn't go and start the funeral close to that time, because then people are going to be busy and they're going to miss the saying Shema. But if it was a great person, so then you don't focus on the Shema time, you start the funeral. If you already started the funeral, and they took out the coffin, and it came time for Shema, and they are taking out the coffin. Anybody who's needed to actually carry the coffin, or as it's called, it's a bed. It calls it a mita. If you ever seen pictures of a funeral in Israel, right? It's not a coffin. It goes straight into the ground. So anybody who's needed in order to carry. So as the Gemara says, and he quotes over here, those who are actually carrying the coffin, and anybody who's standing right next to them that will take them over if it gets too heavy, or their replacement, meaning the next person to hold the coffin and the one after that, right? So they're going to switch over. So all those 3, the carrying, the ones who are going to replace them, and the replacement of the replacements, whether they were in front or behind, they are not obligated to say the Shema. But anybody else who's part of the procession, but they're not necessarily needed for carrying the coffin, so then they are obligated to say the Shema. Number 5, What if they're sitting in a funeral home and they're busy with a hesped, with a eulogy? And it came time to say Shema. So if the person who passed away, if the coffin is sitting right in front of them, so they go out one by one, go outside of the room, go away from the area, and not all at the same time because in the middle of a eulogy. So one by one, go out and come back in, so that way someone else can go out and also say the Shema. And they go back in to hear the eulogy. There's a eulogy, but there's no coffin there. The eulogy about a person, but there's no coffin there. So everybody says the Shema, and the Avil, the person who's the relative of the mourner. So he obviously doesn't say the Shema because there wasn't a burial yet. Because he doesn't say Shema until the burial. Number 6. Now, after burial, after burial, what happens is we make a shura, we make a line, 2 lines or a line, and everybody and the mourners walk through, and we say Hamakim Menachem Eschem, right? So kavrus ameis, if they did the burial. And now the mourners are coming lekabel tanchumin in order to get the words of comfort, which is the hamakim menachem eschem, the line that we say while they walk through this path. And now everybody's moving because it's a crowded space where they did the burial, so they're moving over to the main road or whatever in order to make the shura, in order to make the line for the mourners to walk through. If it's a possibility that the people that are crowded, that are there, they could start saying Shema, or at least finish the first verse of Shema before the mourners come into the line. So Yaschilu, they should start. But if they won't be able to finish the first pasuk of Shema, first verse of Shema, they shouldn't even start. They should make sure to offer comfort to the mourners. And once the mourners have passed, then they could say the Shema. Now, what if you're standing in the line? So, like I mentioned, you make a line and the mourners walk between. It could be quite busy. So then, so the ones that are literally at the front of the line, meaning that they're the ones that could see the face of the mourners, those are not obligated in saying the Shema, but the ones that are behind, and that they can't necessarily see the mourners. So then, where they are standing, they're allowed to. They are obligated to say the Shema. Number 7. Call me anybody who's not obligated to say the Shema, and it is someone that's not obligated to say Shema, but if they want to be more stringent on themselves, they're allowed to. They could take it upon themselves and say the Shema. But here's the caveat: but he should have a clear mind. He should be able to do it in a proper frame of mind. And if this person is anxious or overwhelmed, etc. So in that case, is not allowed to until he has peace of mind. Number 8. Anybody who is tamei, impure, is still obligated with saying the Shema and with the blessings before and after. Even though that day they're going to be able to go to the mikveh and become pure. There's certain tameis that you just once you go to the mikveh, you're already back to your purity, which we'll get to eventually when we talk about the different purities and impurities in the Rambam. So there's certain purities that just go to the mikveh, but still they should still say the Shema even before they go to the mikveh. Examples of impurities that you go to the mikveh and you're done. Benida, Zava, Mishkavan, the Ketzben. The Ezra Beis Dinei Tiknu that Ezra and his Bezdin instituted they shouldn't read in the Torah if you're a Balkari. Balkari is a certain type of impurity for a man. So and that this specific one, they took it out of the general category of Tamei, that he shouldn't read from the Torah until he goes into the mikveh. But the Rambam says that this takana, this institution, has not gone has not been accepted amongst all the Jewish people. And not only that, and it was an institution that it wasn't possible for all of Klal Yisrael to hold up. So Leficha Batla, so it got cancelled. And there is a minig of by the Yidden likris b'Torah likris gishma vein balkirayin, that even if a balkari, this type of impurity, they would read from the Torah and say the Shema. Lefisha ein divrei Torah mikabel tuma. There's certain things that are mikabel tuma. There's certain things that when they get in contact with someone that is tamei, so that becomes tamei. There's certain things that
impure.
Do and certain impure that becomes that if it comes in contact with someone impure, it becomes impure. But but the words of Torah obviously can never become impure. They're always pure. Shenemar, as Yirmiyahu says, the words of Hashem are like fire. And just like fire cannot become tamei, so too the words of Torah do not become tamei.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, we got a double.
Coming from Los Angeles, here with my son Mullah. This is how he likes to spend his July 4th weekend. Come learn Rambam with his father. Look, he has a sefer, and I have a sefer, and together we're going to do this.
Beautiful.
Okay. Hilchos Tefillah Birchos Kohanim. Now we're moving on to the halachas, the laws of prayer and the priestly blessings. There are two commandments here. Number one, Laved es Hashem b'chol yom b'tefillah, to pray to God every single day. Beis, number two, Levarach Kohanim es Yisrael b'chol yom, that the Kohanim, the priests, should bless the Jewish people every single day. We will elaborate these two mitzvahs, these two commandments in these following chapters. Perek Rishon, number one, mitzvah it is a commandment from God Almighty to pray every single day. Shenemar, like it says in the Torah, it says that you should work for God, and we understand that avoda here is referring to prayer. Like it says that you should serve with your heart. Our sages said, what does it mean to work with your heart? That is prayer. Number two, the amount is not, the Torah doesn't say how much, the Torah doesn't say exactly what, and also there's not a set time according to the Torah. Therefore, women and slaves do have to pray because it's not a set time. So what is, if the Torah doesn't say the amount, and the Torah doesn't say the time, and the Torah doesn't say what does the Torah want? That Adam Miskanen and Mispalel so what the Torah wants you to do is that you should first enumerate God's praises, and then you should ask for what you need. And then you should actually give thanks and gratitude to God, every person according to his ability. If he's good at it, if he's good at it, he should do a lot, and if he can't, if he's tongue-tied, then he should do whatever his ability is, whatever his ability can. Enables him. And likewise, the amount is based on your abilities. Some do, if you can only do one, you do one. If you can do many, do many. But important that whenever you do it, whether you do one or whether you do many, it should be facing the holy Beis Hamikdash in Jerusalem. And this is how it was from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu all the time till Ezra. That's what prayer was. Now, number four. Then when the Jews were exiled in the time of Nebuchadnezzar, the wicked one, and they went to Paras, and they went to Yavan, and other places. So now they had children born not in a regular Jewish environment. They didn't know the language of their fathers and their grandfathers, and they didn't know each other's languages. No, there wasn't one language that everybody can express themselves in. And like it says in Nehemiah, that from their children, half of them spoke Ashdoidis, a type of language, and they did not recognize Hebrew. Therefore, when it came to pray, and they had to ask God Almighty what they want, or they had to praise God Almighty for His greatness, they weren't able to do it in Hebrew because that wasn't their language. So they would mix in their own languages in it. Ezra saw that this was a problem. And then that's where Ezra constituted the Shemona Esrei that we know, the 18 blessings that we know today. And the way he did the 18 was that the first 3 was praising God, the last 3 was being grateful to God, and the middle ones was asking for your specific needs, every single person in a personal way and in a communal request. So why did he do this? In order that he'll give one set type of prayer, and everybody should learn it, and everybody should be able to pray with it every single day. He did it in order that the one that doesn't know Hebrew properly and the one that does know, they'll both be able to say the same type of prayer, and it won't be that one says this prayer, one says that prayer. That's what Ezra constituted the idea of Shemona Esrei, the idea of a set prayer. Number 5. So once he already set the type, the language that we pray in, so he also set how many times you should pray, and he said it like this: every single day there was in the time of the Holy Temple, they used to bring 2 sacrifices every single day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So likewise, he did one prayer in the morning for Shachris and one prayer in the afternoon for Mincha. And then the days that he would add, the Musaf prayer is the days that they added an extra sacrifice in the Holy Temple when it was Shabbat or holiday. So that likewise, we also do extra prayer. The morning one is called Shachris, the afternoon one is called Mincha, and the added one is called Musafin. Number 6, and they also added one in the evening. Even though there wasn't a sacrifice that was done at night, but all the animals that were put on the altar burnt through the night. So because they burnt through the night, so therefore we made another prayer through the night. Like it says in the verse, this Ola offering was on the altar the entire night until the morning. Like it says, like it says in the evening and in the morning and in the afternoon, I speak to God. So therefore we do 3. But because there wasn't a sacrifice done in the evening, we only do it because of the limbs that were sitting on the altar. Therefore, it's not considered as stringent, or so to say, as important as Shachris and Mincha. That even though the rabbis never made it that it was mandatory, but the Jewish community accepted upon themselves as a mandatory prayer, which is the Ma'ariv as we know it. Number 7. They also added another prayer on. They also added another prayer close to evening on days of fast days. To add and in requests in days of fast days. This was called Ne'ilah. Why is it called Ne'ilah? Ne'ilah means closing. Right now the doors are closing. The fast day is almost over. So let's push in another prayer. That's the Ne'ilah that we know that we say on Yom Kippur. Number 8. So now as a summary, the prayers of every single day is Shalish is 3. Arvis, Shachris, Umincha. The evening, morning, and afternoon. Shabbasis, Umoidim, Rosh Chodeshim, and on Shabbat and holidays, and on Rosh Chodesh, Arba, it's 4. Shalish al Kol Yom, 3 that we do the regular day. Tfilas and Musafin, and the added one. Yom Kippurim, and on the day of Yom Kippur, Chamesh, we do 5. Arba Elu, the 4 that we just enumerated, which is Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, and Musaf, the added one. Utfilas Ne'ilah, and the Ne'ilah prayer. Number 9, Tfilas Elu Ein Poichasim Mehem Avo Moisifin Aleim. These prayers that Ezra created and the ones that we are doing every single day, you cannot do less, but you can add. If you want to pray all day, so be it. Enjoy. And all those added prayers is like in the time of the Holy Temple, you had set sacrifices, but if you wanted to give gifts to God, added sacrifice, you were allowed to. So it's the same thing, you can add in prayer. Therefore, if you do add extra prayers, make sure you kind of change it up a little bit, that it's not exactly the one that you've done that was mandatory. If you made a change even in one, it's fine. Now, make sure when you add something, you do not add in the first 3 and the last 3. Those you can't touch. Only in the middle ones, when it talks about personal and communal requests, that's where you can add. Number 10. Now, as a community, we don't add an extra prayer because as a community, we didn't bring a gift together. Now, also musaf, the added prayer, you can't add to the added because, again, this whole idea of adding is only based on the fact that in the Holy Temple you were able to add gifts in the dava, but you're only specifically able to add those type of gifts. But you're not able to give 2 carbon musafs, for example, 2 added ones for Shabbos. You can't do that. So therefore, you cannot add in the musaf. Musaf's got to stay the way it is. Now, some of the Gaonim, some of the giants said, some of the great sages said that you are not allowed to add a personal added prayer on Shabbos and Yom Tov, because in the Holy Temple, even when you brought gifts, they did not sacrifice on Shabbos and Yom Tov. They only did it during the week, because Shabbos and Yom Tov, since doing a sacrifice in general was in a way transgressing Shabbat, but you're allowed to do it. So we only did what you had to, but anything added was done on Friday or on Sunday or any other day.
Amazing. Thank you, Label Yosef, and everybody. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts, any things that from the 3 chapters that anybody has a question that, again, a reminder, what you should write down, have a pad next to you. You can write down a note because we go quickly through it. Michael, did you have something you wanted to ask, or you're just giving a round of applause? Yes, a round of applause to my sons.
You can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Yes, anybody can unmute yourself at this point.
Now it let me unmute. It wouldn't let me unmute before.
Yeah, no, during the class, we're not going to unmute until after the class.
No.
Okay.
When you were asking, I couldn't say.
All right. So we're good. Any questions, any comments?
I typed my question up in the chat. Do you want me to just read it?
If you don't mind.
Okay. While I'm pet sitting, like I have to bag poop and I have to scoop litter boxes. And in those moments, I was wondering, like, I can't say the Shema, but can I still pray or think a Torah?
So it seems that you have to distance yourself because, as we learned, let's just go back for a moment.
Yeah, you should keep those 2 actions separate.
Yeah, if you can, I guess the problem will be is that you started saying the Shema and all of a sudden, there's droppings. So if you can wait to deal with it, so finish saying the Shema, removed yourself from it, and then go and take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. That would be the ideal way. If there isn't a smell and you're 4 cubits away, but I just want to see something because
I think my question was more so for the second part though, because I get the Shema, the not saying the Shema, but can you still think about like Torah, if that's on your mind?
It seems like not, but I want to double check. I don't think so.
Over here, it's only.
And if you're 4 cubits,
Hilchos Talmud Torah, we'll talk about Talmud Torah.
No. We said about Shema. No, we said We said in a bathroom you're not allowed to, but if you're distant in a bathroom, you're not allowed to think Shema. You're not allowed to think words of Torah in a bathroom or in a bathhouse, right? Right. We said though too that if someone was doing in a bathhouse was doing something that was a prohibition, so then you could even use God's name to remove them from doing something a sinful act. That's because the act of a sin is much more important than using, let's say, God's name to stop someone from doing something, right? That's what we learned earlier. Got that? So, but when it comes to in a bathroom, so I think when it comes, if you are 4 cubits away from it, then it's not a problem about the thinking. If you're handling it, probably then you should stop. If you're handling it, yeah, in the middle of a thought. Good question. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? All right, everybody keeping up? Yeah. How can anybody want to share the how it's going with, like, they're able, is it the speed is okay, we're able to keep up with the speed, it's not too much, not too big of a challenge, because there's a lot of information, and sometimes to make the distinctions, like Katie was asking a good question, because the nuance of the parameters and so on are sometimes get tricky. Okay, we're good.
Well, luckily we have the recording that we can go back if we need
Yes.
to review everything. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
Yeah. The speed is fine, and I love to hear the Hebrew as well. And I do keep a notepad, so if there is something that I do have a question, then I write that down and
Beautiful.
prepared to ask. So.
Beautiful. Okay, I mentioned that on Shabbos, I'll mention again that for Shabbos, we will, I will, God willing, send you a PDF that you can print out before Shabbos, and you can do the study on your own. If you're here in Montreal and you want to come to Chabad Zichen, or if you're in Dollard, you want to come to Chabad of Dollard and learn with Rabbi Fine over there, or if you're in LA and you want to, and you're around Melrose and you want to learn with Rabbi Fine over there.
So Rabbi, I've actually missed 3 chapters from yesterday.
From yesterday, yeah.
Okay.
It's a non-stop train. So
Okay.
I will send, I'll send you the link from yesterday's class.
Okay. Super.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. That's beautiful. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's 12:45 throughout the week, 12:45. Have a wonderful tonight, 6:30, we will have our weekly class, of course, on the Parsha.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.